So first off, I want to say thank you, Mr. Cooksey, for sitting down with me today.
Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So first off, I want to ask you, how did you get into the pest control business?
Well, I was living in Jacksonville. I was working for a railroad contractor doing weed control on railroad rights-of-way. I ran a little formulation plant down on Talleyrand Avenue, and I had the sales responsibility for the Southeast. Florida to Richmond, Virginia, west to Memphis, Tennessee, south to New Orleans, the whole Southeast. But you think about that, I was only calling on railroads, so I only had about a dozen customers. But that's what I was doing when a guy from McCall's, who was at that time in the fuel oil business and in the heating and air conditioning business, contacted me about coming to work over here and starting McCall in the lawn spraying business. They had the idea that they, being McCall, had the idea that they could do lawn service in the summer months and deliver fuel oil in the winter months by using the same people and provide year-round employment for people rather than hire fuel oil drivers every winter, which is always a problem to hire 14 or 15 or 20 people to drive a fuel oil truck, but it's only going to work for 3 months. What are you going to do the rest of the year? Another purpose was to provide some additional income in the summer months for McCall. So they hired me away from the railroad contractor to come to McCall and start them in the lawn spraying business. At that time, there was no requirement for having a certificate in lawn service to spray lawns. And I didn't have a certificate because I'd never intended to go in the pest control business. Well, I came to work for McCall in 1960, April 1960. We started calling on fuel oil customers that we serviced with fuel oil in the wintertime and sold them lawn spraying service. Well, after about 6 months, I said, you know, if we're going to do in the lawn service business, why not go in the pest control business? But I'm not certified, so I have to go out and hire somebody who is certified. McCall hired a young fellow named Ray Doherty from Peninsula Pest Control, one of our competitors here, to come over here. Ray was certified in termite control, so we started out and doing termite work. We did that for about 6 months. Ray passed the pest control exams, so now he was certified in pest control, so we started in the pest control business. After about a year, I was making $150 a week. Ray was making $125 a week, and Ray felt like he should make $150 a week since he was a certified operator, even if I was the boss. And I agreed with him, he should be. We had a general manager at that time named John Simmons. John didn't think that was a good idea. He didn't feel like Ray should make as much money as I did, but he wasn't willing to give either one of us a raise. So Ray ended up leaving McCall, went to work for Arlington Fuel Oil. Arlington Fuel Oil was then owned by Fred, can't remember his last name, but anyway, Fred Bond. And Mr. Bond decided if McCall could be successful in this business, he could too. So he started Arlington Fuel Oil in the pest control business. Had a young guy there that was running the pest control, the fuel oil business for him named John Sessions. So Ray and John ended up in the pest control business, called themselves Bug Out Service. Well, Bug Out is now one of our largest competitors. All happened for 25 bucks a week. But that's how I ended up in this business to start with. And in the meantime, because I had a major in entomology, before Ray left, I worked for at least 6 months under his certificate. So I was qualified to take the exams and fortunately passed them. So we stayed in the business after Ray left. I started at the University of Florida from a very small high school with a very poor background in math and science, particularly physics and that sort of thing. But my principal, who acted as our guidance counselor in high school, there were 22 in my high school class for the whole county, in Jefferson County, Florida. he advised me to go into something mechanical because that was where my aptitude showed, rather than go into something verbal, because I didn't do well in the verbal side and must not have done very well in the other side either, but I did a whole lot better. So I went to the University of Florida thinking I wanted to be an engineer. When I got there, I found out I was nowhere close to being prepared for it. The first math course, I already skipped the basic math and just go right into higher math when you're going to be an engineer. And started talking about things like calculus I never heard of. Didn't know there was such a thing. So I only lasted one semester in that curriculum. I had a good friend at Florida who was majoring in entomology. He said, why don't you take an entomology course? I think you'd love it. You came from a farm background, and it's all about bugs and stuff. You know a lot about bugs already. So I did, and loved it. I made it. My first A I ever made at the University of Florida was a basic entomology course. So that got me stuck in entomology. I ended up taking a lot of entomology courses and a lot of agronomy courses. After 3 years at Florida, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and the Korean War was going on. I knew as soon as I got out I was going to end up in the Army, so I'd say, why not just go on in now and get it out of the way, and maybe things will settle down some. So that's what I did. I dropped out, went in the Army, came back in 1955, went back to the University of Florida, had a year to go, ended up with a major in agronomy. I only liked about 4 hours in entomology, having the required courses in entomology. But because I still had a lot of GI Bill left, I went on and got a master's degree, picked up the additional courses I needed for a major in entomology, so now I had a double major. Major in entomology, kill bugs, major in agronomy, grow grass. So it fit perfect for what I ended up doing here.
Works great with the business model.
Works great with the business model. The company was named for the founders of McCall. They were two brothers, John and Sidney McCall. They were from Monticello, Florida, the same place I came from, but we were no relation, didn't even know the family existed. They came over here in the 1920s, just before the Depression hit. 26, 27, somewhere in that neighborhood. Went to work for a company named Simmons Industries, delivering ice in the summer, coal in the winter. After doing that for a couple of years, they decided, why not do this for ourselves? So they went into business doing the same thing. Originally called the company McCall Coal Company because that was their major product. Coal, you could come by here and pick it up by the bag full. Right here at this location, if you look out in the backyard out there, you'll still find coal. Although they haven't been in the coal business since 1960. That's when they went out. Well, the company got along fine. During World War II, the company was very successful. They had a contract with the Navy to supply coal for the U.S. Navy from Jacksonville all the way to Key West. Most of the Navy ships were then coal-fired. The steam ships generate steam by burning coal. It's available and it's cheap. So that's how you generated steam, and that's how they made their money. Well, after World War II, John was sure we'd have another depression. We'd just gone through a big depression. World War II basically pulled this country out of the depression, and he was sure we'd go back into another one. So he wanted out. Sid didn't want out. He thought, well, I think the country's going to be okay. So he bought his brother out, and now he had gotten into the fuel oil business. They were delivering kerosene to homes, smaller homes, coal to the larger homes that had boilers, central heat with the radiators and all that sort of thing. So they were in the fuel oil business and in the coal business. Well, if you're going to have boilers and you're going to have central heating, fuel oil fired furnaces, and you're going to have kerosene burning space heaters, somebody has to service these units to keep them working. So they got into the service business. They had mechanics that worked on all this stuff. Well, in the 1950s, air conditioning started coming in. So the same mechanics who could keep your fuel oil furnace running in the winter could keep your air conditioning system running in the summer. So they ended up being in the fuel oil business, the air conditioning business, the heating oil, the heating service business. In 1960, they decided, as we said earlier, to get into the lawn spraying business, so he could go into all these various facets. Sid McCall had heart attacks, heart problems, had a couple of serious heart attacks, and his doctors advised him to get out of the business, get away from the stress. You can't imagine the stress if you have, at that time they had 15,000 fuel oil customers. First cold snap, 15,000 people are going to call you wanting it today. And that's pretty stressful. After 2 days, you still haven't gotten to all of them. And the ones you got to with the fuel oil, the furnace didn't work because it's been sitting all summer, so you got to get mechanics out there. So it's kind of hectic. Well, Sid McCall took his doctor's advice, sold the company to Mr. Gene Orr, who was an investor. He had a company called Florida First Corporation that was basically a holding company. So Florida First Corporation ended up buying McCall's in 1954. Senator Bill Buford was sent over here to run it in 1954. He was the one who hired me in 1960. He was the one that had the bright idea that we should get into the lawn care business.
So we've had quite the evolution of vehicles since 1928. So I even heard they used to be different colors.
Well, Sid had this idea that if you had all your vehicles one color, people would only think you had one vehicle, because they didn't ever come to your office. They saw the vehicles in the neighborhood. And if they saw all trucks were the same color, people wouldn't know you had more than one truck. So he would have a red one, a green one, a black one, a white one, so that when you saw one McCall truck was white, the next one would be blue, you'd know he had more than one at least.
Now all of our fuel oil vehicles are green, and now with the iconic white across the board.
Well, Bill Buford changed all that when he came over as general manager. He was sure that he would. Sid McCall says, you're going to go broke painting all these trucks the same color. Why don't you just put whatever color comes out there? So Bill Buford was a little more progressive. He decided he wanted all of them the same color. That's where the green came from. Confused. Flew into Indianapolis, Indiana on a Sunday night, checked into the Holiday Inn, and I sat down and wrote Bill Buford a letter here at McCall's, just to, we had chatted back and forth over the years, and I just sent him a letter saying how much I'd enjoyed working there and some of what I was doing now. The very next week I get a call from him. Why don't you get yourself back down here and run this place? I know you're tired of being on the road, and I was. I was tired of being gone all the time. My wife was tired of me being gone all the time. My kids wondered who I was sometimes. So we ended up coming back to McCall in January 1969.
And the rest is history.
Right, the rest is history.
So our slogan, Call McCall, we do it all, which most people don't realize used to really mean a whole lot of options for our customers.
That's true, that's true. When up until the mid-'80s, we were in we'd gotten out of the coal business in 1960 when we got into the lawn care business. But we were in the heating oil business, we were in the heating service business, we were in the air conditioning business and heating and air conditioning business, and we were in the pest control business and in the lawn care business. So Call McCall, we do it all meant we did it all. Copasan has not only provided us additional income, it has put us on a totally different level as far as service is concerned. In order to service the kind of accounts that Copasan represents, which is all commercial accounts, you have to have a whole lot more savvy, be a whole lot more attentive, have a whole lot more skills than you do just to service the ordinary residential account. And what that has done for us, because we now are at that level, It means that we have raised the level of all the other accounts that we service also, not just the Copasound accounts, but all of our own commercial accounts as well as the residential accounts that we service. We know how to do it, and how to do it the new and modern, safe, effective, and efficient way. And I are very proud of that. The boys have done well. We never thought any of them would ever have any inkling that they would want to come into this business. They never showed any indication of that when they were growing up. Actually, I had a stock redemption agreement. I had been allowed to buy into the company when I came back to the last time in 1969. So I had a stake in the company. And I had a stock redemption agreement that I had intended to sell back to Florida First Corporation. When I retired, it would provide me with a decent retirement for the rest of my life. Well, Brian went to West Point, became an Army officer, did his time in the military, and decided he wanted to come and join the company. And I said, son, I'm planning on selling it. He said, well, I want to come back anyway. Well, he came in. David, who went to the Air Force Academy and got his MBA at University of South Carolina, said, Dad, I'd like to come in too. I said, whoa. Now, I have two sons, both of them officers in the military, both of them with 5 years experience after graduation, David almost 6. They come in. Now John decides he'd like to come in too. So all three of them decide they want to come in. So I don't have much choice. Instead of selling, I have to buy. So actually, from the time I started buying this company, when I came back in 1960, it took me 40 years to pay for it. So I've been broke all my life because every dime I ever made went back into buying the company. Well, now that the three sons are here, John, of course, did not go in the military. He had a major in chemistry from Florida State. He wanted to come in, and we suggested we didn't really need a chemist, although it would be helpful, but why don't you go down to Florida and get your master's in urban pest management under Dr. Kaler? And he did. So he became, and then we took a year to put this whole program together. The board of directors at that time had a retired general, a former banker, an industrial psychologist, and myself. Spent a year interviewing, having these kids, they aren't kids, but having these young men interviewed, finding out where their talents and where their preferences were and where their personalities fit. As it worked out, it worked out very well because Brian was a West Point graduate from the Army, which deals primarily in masses of people doing different things, became the CEO. David, who has a master's in business administration at the University of South Carolina, in addition to his Air Force Academy degree, is the chief financial officer. John, who has a major in chemistry, which is very helpful in this business. We have handled a lot of chemicals. And a master's in etymology. He is a logical guy to be the chief operating officer who shows and tells us how to do things. So it's worked out very well, and we are very proud that it has. Welcome aboard. We hope you enjoy your stay here as much as I have. We'll do our best to help you, and we look forward to working with you.
And as always, I hope you're enjoying retirement.
I am indeed. I am indeed.
Thanks again for sitting down with me today. And one last thought, I have to hear you say it.
Call McCall, we do it all.